Welcome all to this webinar. I guess that if you're here, you are someone who likes to have impact. Maybe you are up for a new challenge. Maybe you want to go for a promotion, pivot your career. Maybe you want to go for a totally new job after a career break, or maybe you are a business owner. And in all these cases, we are often asked, what are your talents? What are your strong points? What do you bring to the table? And I don't know about you, but I have often had that when I was asked this question, I was lost for words. And I know quite a lot of people who find it hard to say what they're good at. But nowadays, knowing what you have to offer is actually a need, not a luxury. We are in the fourth industrial revolution, and the emergence of things like artificial intelligence is disrupting every business. Even writing books or coaching is now done by AI. And already quite some time ago, in 2018, the World Economic Forum warned that we will be faced with changes at a scale, a pace, and a force that we have never experienced before. So apart from all the humans who use AI to be more effective and better and faster, AI itself has become our competitor. But we still have something that AI does not have, and that is our brain, our human intelligence. And what we humans can do is we can recognize patterns and match between seemingly unrelated patterns, whereas AI processes in a linear way. We are creative, and AI basically repeats what it already knows. We humans are coachable to think about and change our own behavior, but AI executes instructions or tells us what to do. It definitely cannot self-reflect. If you ever have tried ChatGPT, it always answers something like, I do not have a personality, I do not have an opinion, if you ask it difficult questions. We humans give meaning to content, whereas AI stores and provides content. We innovate, disrupt, whereas AI improves what already exists. We learn through experience, and AI does not learn through experience. It repeats what is put into it by humans. We contemplate existential questions. We think about the why and the how of things, whereas AI thinks more about the what, and sometimes also about the how, but it repeats what it already knows. We solve complex problems, whereas AI identifies problems. And we are into emotions, we are into emotions, whereas AI is into logic and reason and has not mastered emotions yet, I should say. In any case, it is of crucial importance that we optimize and unlock all of our potential. Before I continue telling you how I think that can be done, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself and how I came to know about the brain. I started my professional life at the Consulate General of the Netherlands in Istanbul. And there was so much going on at the time, and I felt that I had no impact where I was. So after 2 years, I quit my job and walked straight into a war in the neighboring country of Iraq. And during the 20 subsequent years that I covered the region from Kazakhstan to Cyprus and the Balkans, I also wrote some books. And especially I witnessed a lot of suffering, which eventually gave me post-traumatic stress, and I burned out. So then I needed to heal myself. And when I was doing that, I realized how much actually I would like to do this for others. So already in Istanbul, I started working with people who were traumatized by the often quite terrible things that they had experienced. And when I came to Brussels 7 years ago now, I started shifting more into coaching, and I work with nowadays mainly high achievers who want more impact, but feel that they are not coming into their own. And I'll admit that initially I struggled tremendously with what is now called imposterism at the time. I didn't know that word yet, but it's the unsettling feeling that you know, on the one hand, that you have a lot to offer, but at the same time, a part of you believes that it's all worthless and that others will not believe you or will find out that you are faking it. So there's that constant inner conflict between believing in yourself on the one hand and believing that you are useless on the other hand. Now, in the last year, I gained this certification for the neuroagility profile that that is the reason that I give this webinar. And it's a great tool because it makes the issues at hand visible. It makes change measurable, so you can better focus on what needs to be done and be more efficient at doing it. And as a client, a coaching client, you know exactly what needs to be addressed. And at the end, I'll have a special offer to celebrate my certification. I also finished writing my book, which is the culmination of these 7 years of research into how our subconscious mind works. And this is why I know how to overcome this imposterism and other self-sabotaging habits. As I said, I now work with high achievers, and this is one of my clients who has recently received yet another promotion. So let me talk a little bit more about the neuroagility profile. As I said, this is a tool to map all of your assets, including your hidden ones. So you have a picture of your true potential. It also gives you clues about what you can work on so that you can access all of your brain power and impress others with your ability to outlearn, outthink, and outcreate the competition, whether that's AI or people. More than ever, we need complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, decision making, and cognitive flexibility, all brain skills that are needed to be employable, successful, and competitive. So the neuroagility profile actually informs you about what your top strengths are, so that you know what to say when you're asked what you can contribute. It also enables you to make a plan to optimize the other parts of your brain and your mind to be flexible and agile and employ all of your potential. It helps you understand how you specifically respond in stress, because not all of us respond to the same things or find the same things stressful, and we do not respond in the same way to stress. And knowing this enables you to counteract this and catch mistakes before they happen. You also learn about your own personal communication style so that you develop the best way to communicate what you think is important. And it helps you focus on what matters, because you can align what you do with who you are once you know what's inside that head of yours. So how does it work? Well, you get to answer a long list of questions through a link. It takes about 1 hour. And then the result you receive consists of 2 parts. One is the component that's called the neurodesign flexibility. And this is these are all the neurophysiological elements that make up your neurological design. And this is a mouthful for how you use your brain. And then the second part is the drivers that indicate how well you look after your brain. And this is, they call it brain optimization. And together, these two are called your overall neuroagility. If we look at it in a little bit more detail, the first part, so the neurodesign flexibility, how well you use all the parts of your brain, measures 6 things. First of all, the relative lateral hemisphere dominance. So whether your right hemisphere is dominant or your left hemisphere is dominant. And you may, you probably know that your right hemisphere is about people, it's holistic, it's associative thinker, and the left brain, or the left hemisphere, I should say, is more factual, linear, and into details. Then it measures the whether you prefer to be expressive or receptive, and that has to do with whether you dominantly use the front part of the brain or the back part of the brain. Expressiveness, or an expressive person, you hear what she or he thinks, so they process information by expressing it. And a receptive person processes inside, so mulls over information before sharing their thoughts. Then the next thing that is measured is your rational or emotional preference, and that is either the top layer of your brain is dominant or the middle layer of the brain is dominant. Then it measures the coordination between brain and your senses. So whether you're left-handed, right-handed, left-eyed, right-eyed, left-eared, right-eyed, and how that coordinates with the hemispheres. And it also measures your sensory preferences. So whether you are a visual, auditory, or a kinesthetic person. So is that your, which one is your preferred way to absorb information and reproduce information? Then it measures your intelligence preferences. So those are your traditional IQ, your bodily intelligence, your emotional intelligence, and your spiritual intelligence. And all these are divided up into separate parts again. And last but not least, this is not in this dial. It looks into the figurative thinking and learning languages, and I'll come back to that in a minute. The drivers, the overall brain optimization, so how you look after your brain, first measures how well you switch between the hemispheres. So do you use them together, or do you use them one by one? Obviously, all of us use our whole brain, but some people tend to reside in one hemisphere at the time, and other people have both of them working together. It measures how well you cope with stress, the amount of sleep you have and the quality of your sleep, same for movement, amount and quality of your movement, whether you have a positive or negative attitude to life, and the quality of what you eat. Now, those drivers are actually the easiest things to improve, and thereby look after your brain better and affect the whole functioning of the brain. But it's important to remember that the preferences, so the previous slide, is your design, and you can't fail your design. So the neuroagility profile is not a test, it's not a judgment, but by knowing all these scores, you can optimize each one of the aspects, so you get access to all of your brain power. For example, I am left-handed, and every night I brush my teeth with my right hand. So I get better access to my right hand. And I notice that this affects the whole balancing of my body, and probably it affects other, maybe some cognitive functions as well. But my left hand is still the dominant hand, and the right hand is the hand that assists the dominant hand. But you can train to get better access to both of this, and that works actually for all the parts of your brain. You can optimize them so that you have better access to all of them. And if all of them are optimized, the result is stronger than the sum total. So just like one horse can pull 2 to 3 tons of weight, 2 horses can actually pull triple the amount that one horse does. So the 4 figurative languages that I mentioned that are not in the dials, but they are a separate part of the profile, is basically what your preferred focus is in, what you like to do, what you find important, how you notice or what kind of information you notice and reproduce. And they also correlate with the parts of the brain that are dominant. So the front left dominance of the hemisphere means that you are analytical, and there are more assessments like this who all have their own names for these quadrants. Neuralink, the owner of the neuroagility profile, calls this dominance the analyst, and it's a person who is thorough, precise, who's verbal, into numbers, realistic, logical, analytical, factual, and into details. So it's a person who dissects information and who likes an intellectual exercise. So who likes to analyze. The back left, or the back left, I should say, of the brain dominance is the doer, who is also a verbal person, linear thinker, dislikes ambiguity and is into action, result and task oriented. Also a decisive person, competitive, independent, and can be impatient, is usually a sensible and controlled person, and is more into answers than into questions. Then there is the back right dominance, which is called the counselor, and this person is sensitive and receptive, emotional, into people and relations, is intuitive, is into counseling, so listening, giving good advice, is diplomatic, supportive, and empathic. And then there is the front right dominant, and that's the strategist, who is creative, holistic, practical, experiential, spontaneous, who sees opportunities and likes to play with new ideas, likes to initiate change, is futuristic, so future-oriented, thinks in images, is talkative and social. And most of us have a combination of these quadrants. So most people have at least 2, and good leaders have access to all 4 of the quadrants. And again, this is usually something that can be trained, that is trained, but it's also important to know that access or dominance can change under the influence of a life-changing event. For example, it has been found that young mothers, after their baby is born, they switch from whatever dominance they had to the counselor part of the brain. And after a while, they usually switch back to their original one, but the counselor will remain stronger than it was in previously. So yeah, life-changing events, good or bad, can change the dominance of these quadrants. This is about the preferred sensory mode of how you process information. So how you think, learn, and communicate. And you can see on the picture what the preferred media is for each preference. And I would like to stress that, again, that preference is not competence. Preference is usually how you're born. So the preferred side will lead and the other side will follow, or the other aspects will follow. Habits can be reinforced. So competence is learned behavior. And if you look at this person, whose profile this was, is somebody who has a very strong kinesthetic preference and rather low visual preference. So this person would benefit from training the visual axis. And that said, we all actually learn best when we move. It's something that our school system doesn't know, apparently, but children tend to fidget, and it's because actually moving, enacting, embodying helps your brain learn. I myself, when I did this profile, I had a stronger visual preference, but I do know of myself that the way I like to process information is by writing. So that's kinesthetic. I need to write things down in order to comprehend them. Why these things are important? Well, I mentioned the effect of stress. And when you are stressed, you default to the dominant parts, and the non-dominant parts become less accessible, and lesser the more the stress increases. So the non-dominant parts can even start switching off. That means that when a person who is dominantly receptive may become very quiet and lost for words, indeed, because of the stress, he or she will not have proper access to the expressive part of the brain anymore. And a person who is dominantly rational loses access to their emotions. And a person who is dominantly emotional may not have access to the facts anymore. And in this picture, you see how, well, you know that the hemispheres control the opposite side of the body. So normally the right hemisphere works together with the left hand, eye, and ear. And this person has a dominant left ear, but also a dominant left hemisphere. So under stress, this person loses access to the information that comes in through the left ear. And the left ear tends to hear what is said, so the semantic meaning of words, whereas the right ear more hears the how things are said, the tonality, the emotion that is in the language. So under stress, this person may not have access to what is being said because the right hemisphere starts dimming down. And yeah, we all have our own preferences, dominances, which affect how you respond to stress. So I would like to open up the floor for a few moments to ask you what you think causes stress, unforeseen events. Yeah. Working from home with small children. Yes. Lots of distractions and meeting deadlines. Mm-hmm. Yeah, stress can be interpersonal, usually, right? Other people cause you stress, conflict, difficult colleagues or bosses. But we also cause stress to ourselves. For instance, not knowing what to say, putting the bar too high for yourself, feeling overwhelmed, imposterism. All those things are also stress factors that can make you lose access to the parts of your brain that are not dominant. But as said, you can train them to be more accessible. The more you train them, the more accessible they are. So altogether, you end up with with a score. So fitness and flexibility together are your overall neuroagility, which is the green line in this score. And this particular person had a score of 48%, and true neuroagility starts at 80%, is what Neuralink says. Now, you cannot become more of who you can be if you don't accurately understand your potential. So that's why it's important to know about your brain, and so that you know what you can develop.